Hello everyone, this is Javamonk, and welcome to episode 2 of, or I guess 3, of my mod making series. So, last episode we made hammers that actually work and are non-directional, and also quite efficient. So, that was quite a fun episode, and I hope to have as much fun this time because this episode we're going to focus on some tools that are mainly for creative mode. And this is because I'd like to model some things in this mod, and well, creative mode just needs some extra tools to actually make it not quite as annoying. So right here, I have the temporary block. What this does is it's designed to be kind of a measuring tape. So as you can see, if I just lay out a collection of blocks here, you can count along it, but then if you're in creative mode, you would then have to break all of those blocks individually, which is annoying. But with the temporary block, you break one block and it causes a very small explosion that just chain reacts all the way down the line. So it's really cool, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it also works underwater. It does. There's just one little tiny problem. Even though this explosion is the smallest it can possibly be, it is still possible to blow up dirt, so it's not entirely useful for things like that. Also, since it causes explosions, blowing up large platforms of this, which you would normally be doing, blowing up large platforms or lines of this is going to cause a lot of lag. So this episode, I hope to fix that. Well, that's one of the missions I have for that block. There's also another thing I'd like to do in this episode, also having to do with creative mode tools. But first, let's take care of the temporary block. First things first, this temporary block should be relabeled to something more to its true nature. Let's call it a measuring tape. There we go. It can stay in the blocks tab, and it's only really destroyable in creative mode. It's only obtainable in creative mode. So we can skip this whole area. But right here, these events, we're going to modify this. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the block around the region. We're going to be kind of doing what we did for the hammers, but we're going to do it for the temporary block. So in this case, we only wanted to remove blocks that are itself. As a result, we need to select something here, a temporary block. Done. So I'm just going to create a whole bunch of these events that are all designed to destroy temporary blocks, and it's just going to go in a 3x3 region around the block that you break, that the player breaks. And I'm just going to keep doing that. I forgot how much of a pain this code is to look at. And good grief. How does anybody navigate this? Suppose this is what you get when a computer generates the code for you. Because yeah, I forgot just how bad this code really is. However, I am still grateful for the fact that it's doing all the work for me, because doing all this manually would just be a pain. Right. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm modifying these I, J, and K parameters such that it will break the blocks in a 3x3x3 cube around the one temporary block that I decide to break. So this is just gonna be a whole bunch of if statements, since I really don't need to make it all that efficient. I don't necessarily need to make it like I did for the hammers, since this is as large of a region as I'm gonna want it to break. And The reason why I decided to do it in a 3x3x3 area is if you decide to use these blocks to measure out diagonally, I still want it to be able to be used as a as a measuring tape for diagonal purposes. I'm gonna get on with this. And now let's test it. Here we have a measuring tape block right here, which technically speaking, technically is called a temporary block, which I cannot change for some reason, but in the inventory, it's called a measuring tape. So now, if I lay out a line like this, okay, it's kind of weird. I guess breaks 2 at a time, but weird. So I guess now I just gotta figure out how to make it chain react. Yeah, because right now it doesn't chain react. Okay. Cool. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Aha! It's in the list of events. So we have when block is added, when the block is right-clicked, when you have a random update event. I don't want that. I also don't want it to activate. I also don't want it to destroy at an update tick. Let's see, there's a block destroyed by explosion. That was my previous way to make a chain react, but that's not going to work now. So I suppose when the neighbor block changes that would be what we need to do. And in this case, we're going to check for whether or not there is a temporary block, and if it's located in the proper location. So all we now have to do is just copy and paste what we put in as the code, all 27 instances of the coordinates of the blocks it needs to break, and then we can test it out again. See if the chain reaction works. Does this work? Here we go. Let's pull out our measuring tape and see if... Oh. That's unexpected. Okay. Weird. So it's like... This is not how it's supposed to work at all. Okay. Some rather bizarre behavior, but... Also, will these blocks disappear on their own? And it doesn't seem to be working on breaking the entire region. How strange. So the neighbor block changing didn't do anything. So instead, what I'm thinking is over here, possibly make it so that it doesn't drop itself, but rather just drops nothing. So it's not actually going to drop anything, but the point is it's going to act like it was dropping something. And actually, okay, I can never drop something like a note block and drop 0 of that. So given this, I don't want it to provide particles. I don't want it to be able to get comparator data. So neighbor block changing is not going to work. However, I'm sure there's something around here where basically if the block nearby is if the block nearby in the region that is broken is basically being told to also trigger that. So I'm making no sense. Here's a crazy idea I just had. I could make this provide redstone power, and then if the redstone turns off, then it breaks in that region. So in this case, we could do the do that exact thing. So let's see. Temporary block. There we go. And then I'll add this just for now. And now we can, and I still don't want it craftable. So here's the idea I had. Since this block is going to be providing power, if the block nearby is removed, then that block will be told to break all the blocks in that 3x3 region. Hopefully that's the way it works. And then once the block is broken, it'll also realize that it's unpowered and break the rest of the region. So hopefully it works that way, and hopefully a chain reacts like that. But the point is, no explosions. That's the key here. I'm pretty sure that didn't work. So looks like I can't actually place blocks nearby like this, but I can on the side like this, which is weird. So, and also kind of pointless. So with this now, I did test with the breaking with the redstone like this, and no problems until I placed one, in which case it broke the entire region. So by the look of things, you can do this all you want. Well, sort of, not really. Okay. I'm not sure how that's possible, but I think that could possibly be even weirder. Okay, we're gonna have to try a different method of chain reacting. Okay, I'm gonna try something a little bit insane. So here's the idea. I'm gonna use recursion to make the blocks in the region break. Now what recursion is, just to understand recursion, you must first understand recursion. That's the basic idea. So right here, I have it set where it registers I, J, and K as the X, Y, and Z coordinates. And then it's break blocks, I, J, K, position, world, whatever. And then this over here is basically to just accept the arguments and then breaks the blocks that are actually valid and in the region. And if it can't find anything in the region, then stop right there. However, if it still does, then it will go back through this method here, but this time bump this up by 1. So I'm hoping that this won't cause a massive problem. I hope not. In fact, just to make sure that it doesn't accidentally cause any problems, I'm going to put in a temporary variable here. So I'm going to register how many times it runs, and I'm going to set that to 0 for now. And then each time this method runs, I'm going to increment the times run. And if for some reason this times run, so if times run for any reason goes above or equal to, let's do 50, then I'm going to tell it to stop right there. So I suppose I'm wondering how I can stop the game nicely, because I don't want it to corrupt, I don't want it to and I'm okay with it crashing, but I'm not okay with it corrupting. Hopefully this is sufficient. I'm going to back up the worlds just in case. So here is the reason why I even took the precaution of backing everything up, because when you're doing recursion, you can very easily cause a very serious problem. It's called a stack overflow, where basically something's having recursion going on forever without ending and having no way of stopping. And that's bad. Java has a way of stopping that before it overloads your system. So, and then it throws a nasty message of a stack overflow error. And which is why I took the precaution of backing everything up. So now, here is the measuring tape, and we will now test and see if this measuring tape works like it should, or if it's going to cause a stack overflow. Okay, so it's going to go in the positive X direction for now. Here we go. Okay. Weird. Why did it do that? So, here's an idea I had. Why not create a keybind where all I have to do is press a key on my keyboard, and it'll just destroy every single measuring tape block that exists in a nearby area. I think that is really the best way to do this. So the key to do this, I think, is B. Okay, let's see. Creative mode so far that can support that key. Special features, none. Okay, so when the key is pressed, I'm just going to remove every single measuring tape block within a, how about a 50 by 50 by 50 area. I think that sounds good. I hope that's enough. So all I gotta do is just check and see if there's a block that is at, first I've gotta check to see if there is a temporary block to destroy, and then destroy that block. Here we go. And then I'm just going to use the hammer code and make that destroy a 50 by 50 by 50 area. I hope that's enough. So I copied in all the code from the hammer breaking, and so, as if you remember from last episode of the series, this is where I really developed this hammer code. And in this case, we're having the size X, Y, and Z both being 24, and if we then count in the fact that the player is going to be standing in the middle of this region, then I should probably change this size to 25. And this way, it'll break a 51 by 51 by 51 area centered around the player in a cube shape. Now, the hammers are different from this temporary block code here because, well, first off, I also got to go down in Y. So I added this part here for that purpose. And then as for the isValid command, as for the isValid thing, over here I have the method saying that it is valid to break the block if it is one of these temporary blocks, because that's what it's called. I can't change this name. But if it's not one of these temporary blocks, aka measuring tape, then it will not break that block. So now what I gotta do is in here just swap out every plus with the y arguments with minuses. And this way I can also break blocks that are below the player. There we go. Let's see if this works. It might not. Well, at least maybe not as well as I intended. Like, it might crash the game because it's handling way too large of an area. But we'll just have to see. Okay, here is the ultimate test. Does a keybind work? So let's see. I'm going to place the measuring tape down, and B. B. I'm pressing B, right? Hold on. Let's go to the controls. Okay. First off, why is this weird? And secondly, why isn't B working? Hold on. Is it sensitive to uppercase versus lowercase? I don't know why it would be. Okay. B. B. Why isn't this working? This is so weird. What's going on here? Okay, testing out the measuring tape once again, which is, if this works, will probably be the most useful creative mode tool ever, and possibly also the most amazing survival tool ever. if I ever decide to add a crafting recipe for this. So let's just create a platform of this measuring tape here. Or because this is the most likely version of what you're going to do with the measuring tape, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make a nice long line. This is definitely a lot shorter than 25 blocks. Here we go. All of it should be wiped out when I press B. And it isn't working. Why not? Do I have to be in a specific place for this? Okay. Whoa. That time it worked. Okay then. Is it my keyboard that's doing this? Okay. Hang on. The reason I'm asking this is because I actually have I have a external keyboard. So what if I use my computer keyboard? Nope, nothing. So, whoa. Work that time. So does it only work in specific situations? Will it work like this? How about here? That's bizarre. Why isn't this working? Okay. Is it a special Y value I have to be in? I mean, seriously. Why is this not working? I mean, it's working, but it's inconsistent. But why? Seriously, what is going on here? Okay. Looks like a keybind is not going to work. So let's just delete it. Instead, let's try an item in which it's basically a measuring tape retractor, where you right-click it and it removes every single measuring tape in the region. Let's see if that will yield anything useful. So in this case, it's going to be a measuring tape retractor. And let's see. For now, let's give it the same texture as the temporary block itself. Well, actually, how about... I bet there's an unused texture here. How about whatever this is? Okay. And this here is going to be a measuring tape retractor that is only obtainable in creative mode, so there's no need for it to stack up to 64. Let's put this in the miscellaneous tab. Let's see, this is not a tool. Okay. Now what? Okay. Don't need a crafting recipe. But here's the cool thing. We now add something to this. When right-clicked in air. That is the action that we're going to create. In which case, we're going to remove the block. In particular, we're going to remove... Where is that? There it is. So if there is a block called temporary block... Nope. If there is a temporary block that is in the region, then it will be removed. That's basically what I'm going to try to tell the code to do. Let's see how this works. Okay, attempting this once again. So now we have a new item called a measuring tape retractor, plus the measuring tape. So the measuring tape retractor works if you right-click on a block. Alright, it works. So, and it doesn't seem to cause all that much lag, even though I am breaking, or at least testing, a 51 by 51 by 51 area. So maybe, just maybe, I could extend this reach even further. Maybe. How far can I extend this reach? Because Right now, the limit, I think... Let me see if I can actually measure out the 25 blocks in one direction. Okay, so that's 25 blocks. I mean, it's still useful, but and it does suck that I have to have 2 items in my inventory in order to use this measuring tape, but it is certainly a lot more convenient than something else. So, and I just thought of something. This means that black blocks are actually countable now. So, if you remember from the, as you saw from the overview video, then you know that I have black blocks where basically it is impossible to count along using ordinary measures. So you must either use blocks on the edge of the platform, but if you have a gigantic platform of black blocks, the only other way to do that, to measure this platform, is using measuring tape. Okay, cool. So finally, why is there a ghost block here? Anyway, so, are you kidding me? This bug again? Where there's ghost blocks everywhere? Okay, what is going on? Oh boy. Looks like I'm going to have to make it actually activatable to the air, because looks to me that doing it by any other way is not going to be, is just going to create a bunch of annoying ghost blocks. And I'm not even sure what even causes that ghost block glitch. Okay, real quick, code change. Okay, let's test this and see if it creates any ghost blocks. So, in this case, if you right-click on the block, it creates ghost blocks. But if you right-click on something other than a block, then it uses the player's position to center that 25 by 25 by 25, 51 by 51 by 51 area. So, let's test this. Wham! And no ghost blocks. Oh wow, it even destroyed some of these too. That's pretty fantastic. And indeed, no ghost blocks. This is pretty cool. And as long as you don't right-click on a block, it's a pretty useful thing, this measuring tape. So, now that the functionality is confirmed, what I'm wondering is, can I extend the range of this measuring tape? Let's see. So the place where I would be screwing with the field that is destroyed by right-clicking on air with the measuring tape Attractor is controlled with these 3 variables: size X, size Y, and size Z. So one thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to delete these right here, and then say that size X, size Y, and size Z are the same. So they are exactly the same, and they all equal, let's say, 100. Okay, let's test this out and see if it causes problems. And kabam. Okay, I think a range of 100 blocks is enough for this. So, yeah, that seems to already be causing problems, but here we go. I think 100 blocks is enough of a range for this thing, for the measuring tape Attractor. So now I'm going to make the measuring tape even more useful by actually giving the player a block that stacks up to outrageous amounts. This way you know exactly how many measuring tape blocks you've placed, and then add a functionality to the measuring tape Attractor, where once you right-click, all those items that were gained from the measuring tape are destroyed. Okay, think I can do that. I think this might work. So what I did off camera here was I made it so that when the measuring tape block is is added, it adds an item to the inventory, the measuring tape item. And this tells you how many blocks you've placed. And then when you break the block, or actually when you right click on the block, then it breaks all the other measuring tape blocks within a gigantically huge area, and also removes the item from your inventory. So I think this will work. Let's just see. Let's test out the new functionalities of the measuring tape block right here. So if we want to measure the distance between these two pieces of log, then we could do this. So it doesn't seem to be actually giving me any of these items here. Good, it does stack up to 500. Wait, what? That is weird. So when you middle click, it'll give you all 500, but if you try to place it into your inventory, it's not going to actually do that. That is weird. But anyways, now that I've measured this out, the texture is pretty easy to count on, because it doesn't exactly have hard edges, but it has a repeating pattern that doesn't blend in with other blocks. So you can very easily count the fact that there's 9 blocks in between here. And then all you gotta do is just right click and it removes all of the measuring tape. Okay, I think that's good. I'm actually going to remove the blocks measured item and also the measuring tape retractor because they are completely pointless now. I'm going to use my explosive hammer and go fly over here using the powers of explosives, which land sometime soon. Here we are. What's that? Oh, probably something I launched. Okay, so over here is the absolutely destroyed area where I've been testing out some high explosives, like the, let's see, what's an example of a high explosive? How about the complete destruction gun? Yeah, this thing you just hold it in your hand. That thing you just gotta hold it in your hand and it'll launch explosives really quickly. So we're not going to be actually focusing on explosions right now. We're going to be focusing on some tools for creative mode. In this case, these little hammers here, and their intent is to basically make it nice and easy to create structures with just one right click. So here's the 7-segment display right here. Now, there's a problem, and if you right click on it with a block, okay, these are actually ghost blocks. So if I log out and log back in, because I've right clicked on a block, then oh, it stayed. Interesting. Well, anyways, it's not too clear on which direction they will actually spawn. So I could try going this way, trying to make it face that way, but because MC8 is notoriously bad at directions, I didn't actually make it directional. And so it ends up spawning in this direction, but that's not very clear. So that's what I want to fix, is making it clear which direction something will spawn, and also make it a little bit easier to use. So I guess the first thing to change is make these blocks that you just right click and that will do the job. So while we're at it, I'm gonna also create a Mesa Temple. So this is one of the ideas for generated structures. It's basically a desert temple, except it goes in the mesa, and it has red sandstone. Also this doesn't fully work, but the basic idea is that, there it is. Okay. Of course, these chests are empty. So the idea with the Mesa Temple is that, first off, the wooden pressure plate is extremely dangerous, and also, if for some reason you stepped on that pressure plate, it will instantly explode everything. So, however, the reward if you manage to disable the bomb is right here. It's a skeleton skull, or with a skeleton skull. So here we go. I'll just, oops, not survival. Definitely not survival. So I'm going to show you just real quick what would happen if for some reason, that is what would happen if for some reason you decided to, if for some reason you activated the bomb in the Mesa Temple. But anyways, the point here is that these tools for spawning things need to be changed. First off, to a block, and second of all, to add some more things that I could spawn in with just one block. So first things first, deleting all of these, deleting the elements. Whoops, not that button. Yes, there we go. Delete this. So these are all just the different items used to generate the different structures. We're going to change it to items. Now that there are no more items to create structures with one click, we shall now create some new elements. So we're going to make a Mesa Temple spawner. There we go. This is going to also show you the process at which I go through this. I already created a texture that's temporary. It can be changed. But here we go. Let me just find that texture. It is right there. So this texture is specifically for spawner blocks, and it should show up right around here. It's basically just got some arrows, and those arrows will be pointing in the direction that the structure will spawn. So at least for the top face, hopefully. So this will be a Mesa Temple generator, and this can just go in the miscellaneous tab. It's going to be creative mode anyway. It's going to be creative mode only. Okay, and then when the block is right clicked, we're going to be placing a schematic. So I wanted to place air blocks. I don't need it to check if the space is already available. So now all I got to do is go into my registry of MC-Edit schematics and pick out what I want. Now this is bizarre. So it's saying that the schematic you're trying to import is larger than 1600 blocks, and importing such big schematics may result in recompilation errors because Java can't support such big methods. I've never heard that sort of thing happening before. I mean, yeah, I can code and I'll split it into smaller methods if need be, but I had no idea that that was even a thing. Okay. Very well. Wonder if I select to not place air blocks, would that change the situation at all? Nope, it's still larger than 1600. Okay, fine. We'll place the air blocks. And I don't want this block to generate anywhere, and I also don't want it to be craftable. Here we go. So this is going to have a recompilation error, and then we're just going to have to go in manually and add in some, and just split it into a whole bunch of different methods. So I personally don't know just how large, what the maximum size of a method in Java is. So for now, I have it split into 4 pieces since there's 2,000 lines of code here, and I'm just going to split it into 500 line chunks. So I'm just going to pull this out and put it into piece number 1, and then back up to here, take this piece here, this 500 line chunk, and put it into the method labeled piece 2. And then after that, I'm gonna declare the fact that these pieces 1 through 4 need to actually be activated. There we go. Now the skeleton and spider, that just happened to be there when I used MC-Edit, but this TNT minecart is important. Okay, here we go. Next up, we need to actually activate these pieces here. So now let's just do if place piece 1, and basically just call the different methods. Okay, build is successful. So that means that I broke it into enough pieces to actually work. Next up, the 7-segment display spawner. Display spawner. What? Does this thing still exist or something? Weird. Fine. Segment display spawner. Weird. Fine. That is weird. Okay. I'm still kind of hoping that these textures are rotated in the right direction. Alright then, so this here will be spawning the 7-segment display that is used for the all-important counter of your contributions. So, 7-segment display generator. There we go. Same as always, except when the block is right-clicked, it's going to place the schematic of a 7-segment display, rather than that's this thing here. It's going to put in a 7-segment display instead of the Mesa Temple. There we go. And there we go. Let's actually go into the game itself and test and make sure it actually works. We currently have two different things that can be spawned using these generator blocks, and looks like the 7-segment displayer didn't fully work. But okay, let's test this out. Okay, and okay. So this is facing the wrong direction. Crap. Okay. But this generator block works. So, okay. Oh. Okay, it must have been put in the wrong tab then. That's easy to fix. Now, what about this? So it's going to be facing this direction and this direction. Okay. Cool. So now we have a working 7-segment display. There we go. This, by the way, is Mumbo Jumbo's design of a 7-segment display, which kind of explains why it's a fairly old thing. Except that didn't work for some reason. Why did that break? It was just lag. There was nothing went seriously wrong with this redstone. So this is really this is not needed here. But now I have a method to intuitively tell where this thing will spawn, so that I can properly build the counters above everybody's names for those who contributed. So far, no new contributors to celebrate. So for now, let's just take some nuclear glass, and with one click, blow it to smithereens. Yep, there it goes. This is why nuclear glass is awesome. And there goes the rest of the Mesa Temple. Okay, cool. So now we have a way to generate our own Mesa Temples and also 7-segment displays. Let's add a couple more things to that. So, that is going to do it for episode 3 of my mod making series. So, recap of what we did this episode. We now have a few creative mode tools that will make building in creative mode a little bit easier. So, for example, you have these blocks, such as a block that will spawn a 7-segment display once you right-click it. And this does function perfectly, just like that. We also have a generator block for a naturally generated structure, specifically the Mesa Temple. Here we go. This is the Mesa Temple, and later on in this series, we'll focus on how this is going to even generate in the world, because at the moment it does not do that very well. But it is still possible to generate it using the Mesa Temple generator block. And then, most importantly of all, and most useful of all, the measuring tape block. This block here, all you gotta do is just build along whatever line you want. You can do it in a line like this. You can even measure out the size of a platform like this. And once you right click on the block, then all of the temporary blocks in the region, in a very large region, disappear just like that. So that is an amazingly useful block, because now you can just measure out absurdly long distances. Like, say I wanted to measure out the distance between this Mesa Temple and that nether portal over there. I could measure that and then remove it without having to go back and break all those blocks, or MC edit, or coordinates. So that is really cool. We now have tools for creative mode. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please let me know. And I will see you next time for another episode in the mod making series. Bye!